Hey everybody, and welcome to Season 2 of the Ubisoft Lecture Series. My name is David. I'm going to be your host for today, and I'm coming to you live and direct from Ubisoft Düsseldorf, which is located in the beautiful city of Düsseldorf, Germany. Season 2 of the Ubisoft Lecture Series. Very cool. And in fact, it has been a while since we had Season 1. I think the last season finished about a year ago. And so it's not surprising if someone now joins the stream, like you maybe, and you're wondering, what's a lecture series? I want to see some games. Show us some games. And while we will talk about games, we'll actually today focus on the people behind the games, the people that create them, their jobs, their skills, their careers. Basically, as a what we want to do is we want to inspire people and shed some light onto how games are being created, but also, if we end up inspiring you to take on a job in this crazy industry of ours after you're seeing our lectures, then that's probably the biggest success that we could have. So it's about education a little bit and just like sharing some knowledge and something for curious minds, you could say. In the past we talked about jobs like being a producer, being a UX and UI designer, and these are things that many people have an idea what those jobs entail, what they actually do. But they are also jobs that are vital for game development, super important, but are probably lesser known. And we also want to feature those. And today we actually do that by focusing on being a technical artist. So that's the topic of today, and we want to explore what this actually means, what this job requires, and what kind of career paths can lead to it. And when I say we're going to talk about it, that's not going to be me because I'm a layman. I'm not a technical artist. But these fine gentlemen next to me, they are. And this is Ali from Ubisoft Mainz and Julian from Ubisoft Berlin. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for the introduction.
Very, very welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So I hope you had a pleasant trip to Düsseldorf.
Yes, I arrived yesterday from Berlin in train. Miraculously, it wasn't delayed, so I arrived on time.
That's not a given.
Also arrived early this morning. I'm pretty okay.
So you're stoked about doing this? Okay, then maybe we just dive into the topic.
Sure.
Then the stage is yours, gentlemen. And if any questions pop up into your minds as you hear those fine gentlemen talk about their job, just post them in the chat, and then we'll get to them as soon as possible. Now the stage is yours.
So let me introduce myself. My name is Julian Rojas Millán, but you can call me Julian, even though I'm not hearing you. But feel free to call me that way. It's not an issue. I'm a senior technical artist in Ubisoft Berlin since August 2023. I have been in the industry for more than 14 years actually. I'm a bachelor in math, and from Venezuela, but I couldn't complete my master. I was finishing my master in computational statistics, but I needed to get a job at the time. We're talking about almost 15 years ago. I have been working in many indie games in Venezuela and a lot of VR applications for a long time. I had the opportunity in working in creative assembly a few years ago, and I landed in Berlin in 2023.
So my name is Ali. I've been working also for quite a long time in animation first. Mostly it was in Iran. Then I moved to Germany and I studied expanded realities program, which is focusing on development of VR and augmented reality applications and games. And then I started working at Ubisoft as a technical artist since 2022.
So what is technical artist? Honestly, it is a very diffuse and fuzzy term, and we will try to give you examples so you can learn what many of us do. But as you see in this diagram, you usually think about the artist who is making stuff like 3D assets or 2D textures or animations, and there is the art, which is the product of those artists working. But you need the tools. You need, in this case, like the brush and the canvas and everything, and that's where we come in. We are creating tools for artists. Of course, we already have like out of the box tools that we will be talking about, but we need to usually specialize and automatize and improve and make efficient a lot of processes in our workflows, in our offices. I would say that one way to put it is that if an artist needs to click 20 times, 20 buttons to do something, our job is to make that automatic, or at least one button. So that's the best way to put it, at least for the beginning.
Yeah, but not only that, we also do job of artists and job of programmers. So at times we need to create things that are really interesting for the visual part, but and the other parts we need to define logics, create systems that work and help other artists to do their job better.
Yeah, we have a background in art, and you will see, but we are also engineers, so we have like a leg in each boat of the process.
In other words, we focus on details that are technical, like it's a technical thing, you can imagine. We are part engineer, part artist, but sometimes we feel kind of like an outsider in those environments because we have technical knowledge and artistic knowledge on both parts, but at the same time we are not completely an engineer or completely an artist.
Yeah, we can say that we are not the best artists, we are the second best or third best, and we are not the best programmers, but we are the second best or third best. But apparently if you are both the second best in art and engineer, you get paid, because there are some jobs that neither the programmers nor the artists want to do, and that's where we come in.
Shall we look at some examples?
Yeah. Do you want to introduce? Well, this is some examples of our portfolio. You will see that in my case, I feel bad because it's taking a lot of the slides, but you can see my portfolio in ArtStation. Those details will be at the end of the presentation, and it is very visual. You will see in which kind of stuff that I work, but it's very artistic in some ways, even though there is a lot of technical knowledge behind.
And also you can see a bit of my work which I have done for the Rainbow Six project at Ubisoft mostly, and as you can see, you can also include different areas and different aspects of game development, starting from visual effects to look development and everything else.
So this is usually for those people that are starting. Probably if you're watching this stream, you are looking for your place in games. I want to make sure that I have no idea what I'm doing. And I ended up here doing great job with great people because we found out the way. Like if I told you my history that we need to cut out for time reasons, I started doing games back in 1994 with Doom. If you don't know, Doom is a game from 1994, even though there are new entries. I was doing the level designer then, and I ended up back 15 years after that doing my bachelor's and my unfinished master's in computational statistics, but I was doing games at the same time. So back then, when I started, I was the guy, because I'm from Venezuela, English is not the mother tongue there. I was the guy that knew English and knew how to Google stuff. And then after doing that and realizing that that has a name in the industry and is technical art, I was solving problems for people doing 3D art. So it has been a ride for me because I come from Venezuela and then went to Colombia, and then France, and then here, and UK. So don't feel bad if you don't see a right path, that straightforward path, because for most of it isn't.
Mm-hmm. In fact, many of the technical artists today started probably as a general artist or a 3D artist, and they started picking up different topics, experimenting with different specialities, and finally at some point they were hired as a technical artist, or they saw themselves, everyone coming to them for solutions or for optimization and automation, and they were finally found themselves in the position of technical artist.
Yes. So what we will do for you, because technical art has grown as a field. So what will we do next is in a few slides, like to summarize which positions and what they do as technical artists exist in not only in Ubisoft, of course, but across the industry. So if you can.
Yeah, sure. There you go.
So the first is technical animator, what we call usually rigger, but it's more than that. Basically, if you have a model like the character model from Assassin's Creed that you are watching there, that model doesn't move at all. It is finished and it is prepared for games, but it's not prepared for animation. So what the technical animator does is create the skeleton as a puppeteer for those animators, not only the skeleton itself and how it influences the model, the mesh, more specifically, but the controls, the strings in which moving. The animator needs to move the character and create animation. We're talking about characters, but it can be objects, like you can rig weapons, you can rig, of course, creatures, quadrupeds, weird creatons and dragons and stuff like that. It has to do with vehicles. You can see, but it's actually more expansive than that. Expansive in the sense that, for example, it encompasses motion capture or performance capture. As you can see, that's a photograph for, I think, Far Cry 5 of the motion capture studio in Toronto, I think. People taking that capture and cleaning it afterward and creating all the pipeline, all the workflow are usually technical animators. That means the knowledge for animation, but also very important, that will be a very repetitive subject, is that we automate stuff. There is a lot of stuff that needs to be done repeatedly in different models that needs to be automated. For that, the default or the standard programming language is Python. That means that you will be doing good if you start learning Python. If you don't know, or if you can specializing on those automation subjects that have to do with video games, technical animation would be one of them. You can find learning whatever language you have. You can find stuff in YouTube to start with. Start with that. We also have, you work with the game engine. You probably have heard of Unity or Unreal. But for example, in Ubisoft, we have a couple of in-house technology. And you can use stuff like Maya, which is the standard for animation. Motion Builder, which is the example that we have there, which is also an Autodesk. But you can pick up Blender maybe and start with finding out if you are a technical animator.
So the next group of technical artists are called VFX artists or technical VFX artists. And what they do is has a lot to do with the interactions of the players with the environment or what they see in the environment, whether it's sand effect, whether it's fire or water, and whether it's some magical effect or mystical illusions that happening inside the environment. That these things are not necessarily part of the environment, are not something separated either. And the pipeline to create those kind of effects is something different from the creating of the environment and objects. So these technical artists have knowledge of usually mathematics and some of the science base of the material effects, and create these effects using tools that are specifically developed for this kind of purposes. One of the most famous standard softwares in this field is Houdini, which is really used all over the world for creating effects, for visual effects, not only for games, which actually is new for the games, but also for cinematic effects and creating film visuals. What other tools that they use in combination with softwares like Houdini is some of the other Creative Suite software, and also they need to be good in programming if they want to level up their skills as well.
So shader and material technical artist, this is actually part of my job, or daily job. basically, to summarize it as quickly as possible, even though this is not supposed to be technical, when you have, especially a 3D game, you want objects to react to the light. So the table and the clothing and the chair have different materials because they are made of leather and wood or skin and hair. Those materials react differently, and you need to control the creation of materials. Initially, that's done by a thing called shader. A shader is, very briefly, a program that is run in your GPU, in your graphic card, that is run for every frame and is calculating the interaction of the light. It's doing more than that, but for 3D games, it is calculating the interaction of the light with those objects. So that is the result of those programs is what you see on the pixel on the screen. That shader is what controls the qualities of the material we are doing, and the input or part of the input is what we call materials or texture set. You can see in the example that in the rock example that you see there, it is defined with a texture four textures, which are 2D images that drive or control different aspects of the appearance or quality of the object. The thing is, and this actually applies to technical artists, VFX artists, as you can see, the shaders for all the objects needs to be calculated frame by frame, and depending of the resolution of the screen, that adds up. It's actually multiplicative. So if you don't have knowledge of optimization and profiling, profiling is sitting down and literally seeing how the resources of your computer are being used. It's basically watching a bunch of statistics of your materials and shaders. So there is a lot of optimization, is what we will be doing. We'll be calling that. That requires experience in math and how to optimize to certain engines and how to know how the GPU works, because if it's very easy, it's incredibly easy to make your engine stutter because your materials are not optimized and they are doing a lot of redundant things and stuff like that. So the work of the shader artist or the material artist is to make things look efficiently. That is in the more performant way possible, especially for, this is understood better for 3D games, but it actually applies to 2D games as well. A lot of what we are doing, what we're talking actually applies to 2 or 3D games, but 3D games is what we do. So we usually talk on that from that perspective.
We have a couple of questions from the chat. Some of them actually fit exactly right here, and some I would rather take later, but I have not forgotten them. I have them right here. So first question is from Pongmania. I hear water is the hardest thing to make in games. Is this true?
We are not VFX artists, yes. It depends on... Well, I would say that simulation, it's not water. From my experience, it's not water itself. It's what we call fluids. From a mathematical perspective, fire, water, vapor are basically the same thing. Mathematically speaking, not chemically, not anything. So if you are doing water and you are doing fire and you are doing ocean, you are doing simulation work, which is what Houdini is for example. But Unreal Engine has this capacity already as well. So I would say that doing simulation is hard, but it's not the only hard thing.
And you mentioned math, and we will get to math in a minute, right?
Yeah.
Another question from Lucid Rushi. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. I love working on shaders and materials and VFX. Can someone be a technical artist only doing these things?
I do these things only that's my job, basically. But usually you are interconnected to a lot of people, so you end up doing a lot of stuff. Is what I was about to say this at the end of the presentation, but we discussed what we call a T professional. A T professional is a person that is horizontal. That means that has, let's say, introductory knowledge or basic knowledge of everything, because you need to interact with a lot of people, but you have a T, a vertical side where you specialize.
Okay, maybe one more question, and maybe you want to take this first. From Pro Basher, what part of your work as a technical artist do you find most creatively fulfilling?
I would say the multidisciplinary nature of the technical art is the most satisfying aspect of it. because usually the technical artists are people who have a multi-disciplinary character, like a T-shaped character that Julian just mentioned. They enjoy creating art, they enjoy creating visual results, but they also love the logic, love the calculations, and love the mathematic and systematic thinking. So the more of these variety of tasks they do, the more fulfilling they would feel. And that's what I am always looking forward in my job as well.
Cool. Okay, maybe we want to continue with the presentation, and the questions that are still not answered, we get to them. No worries. There we go.
So, speaking of multidisciplinary work, one of the roles that are maybe less known to many is the UI technical artists. UI technical artists, sometimes we can say literally bridge the gap between art and technique in the game development. They collaborate a lot with programmers, but at the same time have to collaborate with artists, UX designers, and art direction to create an experience that leads the game to be more engaging for the players. So it does not include necessarily creating art for the user interface, although they do, for example, create visual effects for the user interface at times. But what they do is make a system for the user interface to act properly. For example, if the player moves their controller on a specific part of the UI, that part should behave specifically. For example, we change their size, their color, and their reaction, or show a specific data, and that's not something that you can put in the text button of the that part of the visual and that finish. It should be dynamic and changed based on the context that the data is shown. Or there should be specific order of the contents in the UI and how they are represented. Then that includes a lot of logic behind the scenes that technical UI artists do. And because of the nature of their job, they usually have a lot of back and forth between these positions, artistic and programming positions, and they have to translate their needs into real features.
Okay, moving on.
So pipeline and tools technical artist is also a position that I have held in the past. This is the less graphic of all positions. There is not a good picture, as you can see, but I will put it this way. If you're doing a project at home, or whatever project, it doesn't have to be games, and you are working alone, you probably don't have a problem naming stuff, like naming your files or naming your folders, etc. Or if you are sharing with a person, you can probably share it in a Google Drive kind of stuff, and there will be a problem. But if you add 10 people, even 10 people to the mix, and you are working in a collaborative manner, the amount of mistakes that will happen will be increased exponentially, which is to say rapidly and high, very fast. You will have renaming problems, you will have people erasing stuff and overwriting stuff, and the bigger you get, the worse it gets. And you can imagine a company like Ubisoft where projects gets to even 300 people, 100 people, but it doesn't have to get that big to get problematic. So a pipeline is putting stuff in the engine in a way that doesn't interrupt the job of our artists and programmers. That, as silly as it might sound, you have no idea how important and how complicated is naming stuff and keep that stuff so people do not override it. So if what we usually do, which is what was my job in my previous position, was if an artist finishes a model, let's say a 3D model, I make sure to do everything or to automatize everything that can go wrong after that. So they pick or they click a button and I do the naming, I do the putting into the engine, I back up, I do a lot of stuff, and that needs to be automatized and needs to be efficient. So there are not many pictures of that because that's not something that you see. It's something that artists, let's say, experience. That requires, again, Python. Python is, for all the people, the thing that we have been speaking, Python is a great part, but you might read or heard terms or words like repository or version control and Perforce or GitHub or GitLab. I won't get into the details, but those are things that we use to not overwrite and erase everything and kill everyone's job, because automation is and pipeline is very important. It's what is behind of the work of the artist.
May I add something?
Yeah, sure.
To emphasize on what you all already mentioned, I think pipeline and tools technical artists roles are usually underrated by junior artists and people who are a bit new to the game development, because they like you mentioned, they underestimate the importance of things like naming conventions, project structure, and things and pipeline of the assets, and the sooner someone gets to familiarize themselves with these topics, the better they can improve their projects in the future that comes. And I think this is one of the positions that people who have a background in programming and development could easily transition into game development easily, without having to dive into more artistic or DCC related technical knowledge.
Here, DCC, because we didn't clarify it at the first, is digital content creation. It's packages like Blender, Maya, 3ds, C4D, Photoshop, that kind of digital content, that packages that make assets, that help us make assets. So this is also, and this is one of the fonts, everything is fun to me, but this is one of the more visual parts because it's environment technical artists. The examples here are very specific of what Ubisoft usually is known for, but again, this is bigger than we can summarize here. Environment, you see games like Star Wars Outlaws or any Far Cry entry, and you see these worlds that are expansive and big. And you might imagine that doing that, and you see forests and you see rocks and you see biomes in general. You might imagine that doing that by hand is incredibly difficult, especially because this is a game. So it needs to serve a gameplay purpose. Not only the terrain, but the scattering of stuff, what we call scattering, the positioning of stuff. And it actually varies from game to game, because we have Phoenix Rising, which is a game that I love, which is a game that is open world, but it's very different than what a Far Cry game can be. So even between open worlds, there are different necessities. Your job as an environment technical artist, which is what I have been working, even though I cannot get into the details, is helping create those worlds, automating terrain creation, which is precisely the playing ground where you're doing how to automate the iteration, because you are always improving the layout or the look. You need to do it in a way that is easy to and rapid to iterate. In the case of forest, you are doing a scattering, which is the position of is quote unquote random, because nature looks random, but it's not. So you need to create rules for how the scattering, and these rules need to respect the biological nature of whatever you're doing, but also the gameplay nature. You can create automation of cities, buildings, but it can go to, let's say, of a more micro level, in the sense that you are automating the creation of textures, effects. It is all interconnected somewhat to shader. That's why I do both shaders and environmental technical artists. Remember, this applies, even though we don't have a specific example, this applies to 2D games as well, because they have an interface or they have a world that they are doing anyway. So this is one of the more fun parts, and it's definitely visible in a company like Ubisoft, is automating environment creation. And it requires, again, automation for Python. Houdini is one of the tools that is being used increasingly recently, but packages like Unity or Unreal have already tools for procedural creation as well.
Also, just to add maybe a couple of examples, we mentioned that we create tools for artists to improve and simplify the working process. Let's say you have a specific environment, it's a train that you want to add a road on this. If it's been modeled with hand, and the art direction suddenly decides that we want to change where this road is placed, the modelers have to go through the whole process of modeling and do this whole process again from the ground up if it's finalized again and approved for the final version. But if the technical environment artist has done this before, so they have created, you can imagine a system that the environment artist just draws a line where the road should be, and the system automatically creates the road environment on that area, adds poles with the lights on them, and also changes the material on the side of the road to be from asphalt to dirt automatically. It's not automatically in terms of being magically placed there, but there is a system that defines that based on this line, I need to flatten the area here, add this material, and put these objects around it. And that can be expanded to whole biomes, as you just explained.
Cool. We have a couple of questions. Do we want to take them? Cool. Blacklist9 has a question. I think they were the first to ask in the chat, so now they finally get their time in the limelight. Environmental art versus technical art. What is best for a long-time career?
Wow, I have been doing so many stuff that I think that I will go back to the suggestion of be a T worker or a T employee. You have an understanding, not basic, but let's say sufficient understanding of a lot of stuff, and you specialize in something, and maybe that T becomes a pie because you will have two specialization with time. Then because I do pipeline and I do environmental technical art, because in my case it has been related. It is I don't have a crystal ball to say what the future holds, especially with so many technologies that are coming right now. What I can say is that technical art is on demand. We are not that many. So if you don't, and we will talk about math in a bit, but if you are not afraid of math, you should be fine in the sense of what I believe, I guess.
There's a question from Joppe Min. Hey, Joppe.
Joppe, that
hey. Yeah. With so many different aspects of technical art, how do you decide or know what part of technical art you are going to be involved with?
Do you want to answer that?
Maybe, yes. I think it's a gradual process. Many artists do a lot of experience during the initial years of their game development journey, and they get some feedback from the environment, from the people they are working with, but they also have a sense of fulfillment, and they might see here is a little more than that area, or I enjoy myself more when I'm creating tools for others than when I'm creating this stuff myself. So it takes some years, I would say. Many technical artists, as I said, they start as generalists or 3D artists or even modelers, and then build up their path as they move forward.
In my case, I didn't have an option because back in Venezuela, you will need to do everything. Because we were teams of 5 people doing the pitching and the marketing and the PR and the modeling and everything. So if you need to get paid, you will need to do anything and everything. So I had a experience. If you see my portfolio, you will see that many years ago, I actually have very specialized rigs because I was doing rigging. And then I learned shaders and then I learned stuff. In my case, it was necessity that drove me to test a lot of stuff before I got specialized into more environmental technical artists, which is what I like. I like because I'm a mathematician. I actually have my statistical background is in biology, and I'm looking forward to do my master's after this because of that and bring these two things together. What I can say is that you are also curious to solve problems. So maybe you will find a problem that is outside of your area, and that's like the spark that lets you on another path.
Cool. A question, and we will talk about tools, like an overview in a minute, but Frecha Fehu is asking, do you guys have a personal strategy for getting an overview, understanding of certain systems, or for creating systems yourselves? You know, are there any principles that tend to repeat across different setups?
You want to answer that from your experience? Because I do have an answer. And if you want to like
that's something to think about, actually. I think one of the most important things is that communicate with your team. Mm-hmm. Ask questions before diving deep into rabbit hole. Usually, it saves you a lot of time, and people can point you towards where to find the answers if they even don't know that. I have learned this the hard way, to be honest. In the beginning of my career, I was too proud to be moving around asking questions, so I started reading dozens of pages just to find simple information. That helped me in some aspects, so I had a better understanding of things that I was learning, but also I could do much faster if I had asked in the beginning.
I will withhold my answer because it's part of the presentation and we are going to go back to it.
All right, then let's move on. There you go.
Maybe to start to have an overview of the tools, you might be shocked to see so many icons from different applications on the slides, but don't be surprised because there are dozens more. And you have to probably, during your career, touch many of them. But that doesn't mean that you have to go through every one of them and be really expert in each. And rarely anyone I have known in this career has such kind of in-depth knowledge for every software. There are a couple of main DCC applications like these ones that you can see for the 3D, for example, modeling, or for game engines like the Unreal Engine and Unity, which are famous currently and mostly used over the world. But we are also using in-house tools and in-house technologies at Ubisoft. So it's not that if you don't know the tool, they will not hire you. The main thing is that you know the principles and you know the fundamentals, and when you get in the position and they are using this different software that you haven't seen in your whole life, it doesn't matter much. There will be onboarding, there will be helping you people that can speed up the process of adaptation. You can also, if you will go over the details of these softwares.
I don't want to go over the details because it's not supposed to be that technical. I just want to do, if you find this is Unreal, Unity, Blender, you can find that. You probably know those words already. But I will say two things. The first thing is that what you need to learn is how to learn faster. If you iterate faster, if you learn faster, whatever that means to you, because it's a very personal thing from my perspective, you will be fine. And the other thing is that I will need to remind you that you don't need to be the best at everything. If you are the second best at 2 or 3 parts of the process, you probably will find a job, because that's the kind of people that technical art is. So I'm not getting into a detail. Unreal, you can look that up. These are examples, but it is more about the principles, as Ali said. So we can click the.
There we go.
So when it comes to tools and programming, there are some of the more famous ones that help you land a job as a technical artist, which are mainly Python, very popular around all the disciplines of technical art, not also technical art, but also other industries and other entertainment sectors. We have C#, which is mainly used in game development with Unity. And we have GLSL and HLSL, which are shader programming languages. And that's how you create definitions for the materials of different objects. For example, if we are creating material shader for a plant, you make it so that it absorbs some of the light and let some of these pass through it and absorb some colors and so on, or reflect some of the light. And this is completely different for a wooden surface or my skin in that matter. So that's something that requires a lot of math knowledge. And also there are other environments and skills that you can learn for language and programming, like.
Yes, I would say that Python is the default standard for a lot of the stuff we do. C# for Unity. You will never, as my teacher said, you will never be harmed if you learn something like C or C++. I'm going back to C++, even though I'm not a programmer, but my current job will be, let's say, improved if I hone my skills, I polish my skills in C++. You don't need, this is haunting, because you see all these things, you learn little by little, one at a time, and you don't need complete understanding, at least not at the beginning. So, but also because we are technical artists, usually we love art. And of course, people are more related, some disciplines are more related to art than others inside of the technical art field, but you definitely like art, and you definitely like not only 3D art, you have experience, you probably might have experience as a 3D artist or as a 3D animation, is the fact that you like movies. I live in Berlin, and I love going to museums and performance art, and I appreciate things that I don't understand at the beginning. I'm a cinephile. I'm rereading The Watchmen. I have it there in my backpack because I was reading it on the train. You have an understanding for some section of the field of art. You have language skills on art because you are bridging a gap, and you don't, let's say, are afraid of getting into something that might not be obvious or even pretty at the beginning. You have the same curiosity for art that you would say for the technical part, and I will recommend having a hobby in that you paint or you take pictures outside of games, because that's always something that helps to get a vision, a more global vision, a holistic vision, we could say, of the job that you are doing as an artist. Because there is technical art, there is an art part that you cannot forget.
Yeah, also I would recommend you to educate yourself in basics and fundamentals of art, whether it's through reading a book, participate in a course, or having some YouTube videos on your watch list. Get to know more about things like color theory, about composition, and also lighting. It helps you, and it kind of facilitates how you communicate with artists, with your art director, or with how to describe these things to programmers and other technical artists. It kind of helps you translate between these domains and help you have a better result with fewer feedback rounds.
Now we come to the fun part.
Yeah, this is the fun part, and
Math.
this is the part, and this is the gotcha part, because this is the part that nobody likes for some reason, because I love it, because I'm a mathematician. As I mentioned, I have a bachelor in math. I was actually a teacher, a university teacher, back in Venezuela, and I couldn't complete my master's in computational statistics for personal reasons. There was a question, let's bring back to that question, that how do you notice those patterns in systems? And I'm pointing to the screen here, but what I'm trying to point is exactly what you're seeing in the screen. If you study math, you will start see patterns. It's like how you see in the Matrix, like you start seeing code going downwards in the screen. If you start studying math, especially if you do it in a formal way like I did, you will start seeing stuff. There wasn't. This is actually a great example, because somebody asked if water was the hardest thing to simulate or to create, and I told, from a mathematical perspective, water is a fluid, and fluid from a mathematical perspective is the same thing. If it models fire, it models some kind debris, plasma, or the kind of that kind of stuff that initially, or less chemically intuitively aren't fluids, because you don't see water and fire in the same light let's say in the real world. If water they are opposite, let's say, culturally speaking, but mathematically they are the same thing. They are modeled by the same equation. If I can get technical, it's the Navier-Stokes equation. So you are solving an equation, and you are seeing there that simplification, that generalization power that mathematics has, and that current example, and that happens everywhere. So I do have a background in math, and I love math. And the thing is that you will need math, and math loves you, and there is no escape. I'm sorry. But I think that the positive thing is that you will learn math by necessity, in the sense that if you start doing stuff, you learn by doing, and you will realize where I can see this, or how can I make this more performant, or more effective, or more whatever you are doing, and you will land in Wikipedia at some point. There is no escape to Wikipedia and the math. And hopefully, and usually, when people are not coming from the formal side of science, that's a better way of learning. And there is nothing wrong about that. Like, you are learning because you found your interest. But what I want to say is that there is no escape. You will need to learn the principle of math. There is a chance that you won't learn it as I did in a classroom with a textbook. I will definitely recommend to lose that fear. Take a book. There are plenty of free open source books about this subject. These are the main three subjects: probability, calculus, and linear algebra, and start doing math like in the old way of a paper and a pen, because it will help you. And that's the answer to looking for patterns, is that you learn how to think mathematically.
I love how passionate you are about math.
Because people don't understand.
Your eyes are like lighting
People
up.
don't understand the math. Math loves you. Math wants you understand.
But it's great. I mean, it's really cool.
So this is just more math. This is more computer graphics is my specialization. I'm not a programmer, but it's my specialization from the mathematics side. There is geometric modeling that has to do with creating meshes. And nowadays, there is a chance that you will need to learn machine learning. Machine learning was a thing that I was studying like 15 years ago, maybe more. But I'm not an expert, but it's definitely a thing that I'm coming back to, especially because we have all these tools that we are doing right now. I don't know if you want to add something.
Just to point out that it might seem a little intimidating in the from the distance, but once you get to know a few situations, few cases when that mathematics that you have been always running away from is helping you to reach the goal that you are looking forward for, it starts to become more familiar, and it's also more so friendly, and you start to develop a kind of liking towards it. So you like math back.
Yeah, because math likes you. So there is in the next slide, There is a kind of a, maybe you don't understand this joke right now, you are too young for that, but you want to like it if you are a tech artist. At the end of the day, everything is linear algebra because everything is done in a computer and computer like that. And that's probably the starting point for you is taking some linear algebra courses.
So what do you need to become a technical artist? First, there is no way escaping it. If you want to improve your knowledge as a technical artist, you must also improve your English. So anything that you found on the internet on these different topics and different disciplines is mostly in English, and there is no escaping that. And like you, Julian, mentioned, Google is your friend, or recently AI is something that is unavoidable.
And you need to learn about ethical use of AI. AI is a tool. It shouldn't be, I don't think, I won't allow in my environment to replace people. It's supposed to be empowering people, but it's definitely a tool. It is powered by machine learning. And if you understand machine learning, even if from a mathematical perspective, even on to the basic level, more power to you, actually. Yes.
Yeah.
Here we go.
We can move forward.
One thing is that for unfortunate reasons, game dev is lacking on, let's say, female presence. And that shouldn't be the case because even back, the first programmer on history was a woman, Ada Lovelace or Lovelace. We had computer back in the day in the 50s. Computer were people that compute the stuff, and most of them were women. Actually, when we say compute stuff, it's not like they are magically calculating stuff. They are creating theories of numerical calculation. A lot of that I studied when I was in college, in university. The majority of programmers until the 80s were women. You can look it up in that statistic. And for some reason, it went into decline in the 80s. So it's by no means something that is gender-based. It is not because historically it hasn't been there. But we are in the unfortunate position in game development in general, but especially in technical art, that we are lacking perspective, female experiences, because that's always is always important. So I put this slide of one of a few of our technical arts colleagues that are working in Montreal, Toronto, here in Düsseldorf and Milano. Actually, Luisa, I work with her, even though she's in Montreal and I'm in Berlin. We were working until recently in the same project. She's from Colombia. She has a Grammy. I didn't put there because I didn't want to draw attention in the slides, but she was working in VFX, and I don't remember the show, but she has a picture that we cannot use for copyright reasons with a Grammy. And both there is, all of them are doing great job, and I want to invite you, if you are a female or an identified female individual, to welcome, because we need new perspective, and we need a lot of people. Technical art, we are not that many, and we are doing a bunch of stuff. We need colleagues. So I want to invite you, as they did in the slides, to be part of the technical art family.
That's a very nice shout out. Very cool. All right. Is that the final slide?
Yeah, you can. We put our contacts there. You can call me. You can shout them in LinkedIn. I have that IG is my illustration IG. I have a personal IG that you can put there. You can find there. I'm doing some illustration work that I would like you to see from a technical art perspective. But you can look at us in LinkedIn. You can write us respectfully, and we are open to answer even more questions.
You can also contact me as well on LinkedIn if you have any questions, or if you want to check out our works. You can, like Julian said, check our his Instagram or my Artist Station portfolio. We'll be happy to help or answer your questions.
We are under 1 hour. You have no idea how hard this was, because we, in the rehearsal, we spoke and spoke and spoke. We had no self-control. So hopefully you learn something that is useful other than interesting. And hopefully we have more questions.
Oh, we do. And they're like random now, so like jumping from topic to topic, but I think they're all very cool. The first is from King Kisabe SSJ. My technical question, although I'm not sure if it belongs in this section, is about Valhalla. How is the use of materials managed in a dream realm like Asgard, so like abstract materials? For example, using white stone or blue quartz.
Well, I didn't work in that game, but I'm working in a project that is of similar characteristic, and basically you need math. You are not escaping that. You need to understand how material works, how diffraction, reflection works, and you need to put that on a shader. You can look it up in the internet right now. And you get creative, because at the end of the day, it's not only about reproducing the real world. You are talking specifically about something that is dreamlike or surrealist. That's where actually art comes from, because if you are doing something dreamlike, even if you are not the concept artist drawing the thing, because you have the language of art, you can understand easily. And that's where the creative part, I don't have an answer because I didn't work there, but that's where the creative part comes in. You're supposed to get paid for that. So you need math, as we say, and you need the art, and you need to be the creative person that you probably are already, and you are learning in this path. There is no direct answer to that.
Another question, again, you're not working on the project, but in Assassin's Creed, from your point of view, how is it decided what's claimable and what's not in the world? And the question comes from the private geeker.
That's more of if I understood correctly, that's more of a level design, game design thing.
Possibly, yeah.
There is game design is about the rules of the game, to put it in some way. So there is another person that is deciding the rules and the mechanics and is testing the mechanics, and we are just there to supply the tools for the people that are implementing those mechanics. So it's a bit of a tangential question. So it's not necessarily into the subject.
I think they would be interested in knowing more about game design and level design in a specific, and would benefit from researching a bit into those topics.
Or we just, in one of the next episodes, we have a level design.
That would be even better.
We could. Another question from Malai. What would be your advice for an engine programmer to find out if technical art might be worth pursuing or transitioning into?
Testing. There is no way. There is this. I don't remember. I will share it afterward. There is this comic about somebody asking an artist, "How do you get good at something?" And this artist said, "Practice." And the other person, the joke is that the other person is ignoring the artist, and the answer is practice, practice, practice. I cannot tell you, because I'm not even seeing you, what do you like. So if there is no other way than jumping in and fail. You need to fail faster, in the sense that if you don't like something, that's fine. But I cannot, of all the subjects that we spoke about, pick one and see if you like it or not, because there is no other way other than doing, like learning by doing.
Maybe I could quote my favorite actor here. So fail early, fail often, and fail forward. And that's the gist of it.
Who's the actor?
Will Smith.
Okay.
Gat de Soya, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, is asking, thanks for doing this talk. I have a question for the panelists, if that's possible. It is. Do you notice big differences in your role as technical artists between AAA companies and small studios? Do you think the role can transition easily between development environments?
I can jump into that because I did that transition, and the answer is yes and no. At the end of the day, if you are working in performance and you need to do pipeline, the necessities are pretty similar in nature. Like if you're doing something for mobile or VR, you have constraints that are probably way harder than in a game that is intended only for PC and high-end PCs. So the nature of the problem is there, but it can be more constraining in one platform or the other. Or if in the other direction, maybe you are doing a pipeline for a small company. So your automation is very simple, necessary, but simple. When you jump, like I did, to a company like Creative Assembly or Ubisoft, you are dealing with gigabytes of data. So it is the nature of the problem is the same, but it changed in a scale or constraint. So it is a yes or no, in the sense that the nature is there and you will need to adapt first to a scale, and that can be a big change. and second to the communication channels. Because in my experience in Venezuela and Colombia, we were like 5 people and we were in this room yelling at each other. But if you are there in Ubisoft, especially, I'm working with people all around the world. Luisa, as I mentioned, was working in Montreal. We are not even in the same time zone. So you need to hone. I actually, now that you mentioned, I'm sorry for getting cozy about it. We didn't mention what we call soft skills, which is communication skills. You need to be a good communicator, a team player. You need to have patience, especially because you are supposed to understand stuff that other people don't understand, and they probably don't want to understand, and that's fine. You need to be willing to teach, like hopefully we are doing here. Those soft skills, we didn't mention it because this was more focused on the hard skills, but that's the things that usually, like, the hard skills get you a job, and the soft skill help you to maintain it. Because the difference is how you manage those soft skills when you are 5 people and you have, let's say, the confidence and the trust to be away. But when you are in a Ubisoft company with so many cultures and so many in a foreign country, you need to hone those skills in such a way that you are easy to work with. So that's one of the other differences that is very important for me to clarify. So the nature is the same, constraints and scale change. You need to be you need to actually practice your soft skills.
Just to give an example, you can imagine working in a big company. We will collaborate with people that, for example, all of them are speaking English. You are also speaking English, but maybe you should consider that English is not the first language for most of you. So, or you are all translating from your original mother language into English, and it could cause misunderstandings, lack of clarity, and all of that. So, these soft skills that Julian mentioned add up in complexity and importance as well.
Okay, we have more questions. Shipuk asks, hey, so I want to become a tech artist. I'm interested in both art and programming, but have more experience of doing art. I love engine work in Unity and Unreal and 3D modeling. I am just at the beginning and I would like to have a look at shaders for my final school project. I am just not sure if I really want to program a lot as a job. Is it bad to focus more on the art and engine aspects? And can I call myself a tech artist with less programming knowledge?
The answer is yes. Actually, for shaders, Unity, Unreal, and a lot of engines, you actually don't do programming as in typing. They have an interface, a graph interface, where you have nodes and you move wires and connect stuff and do nice thing. It is under the hood is programming, but they are actually erasing, or let's say making transparent, the layer of actual typing and programming and defining variables and stuff like that. So a lot of, and this is not any problem, you specialize in shaders, you understand performance because that's important, but you actually not doing a lot of typing in the sense of programming. You are doing graphical, a node-based programming, because at the end of the day, you are doing shaders. Unreal has one of the best materials editor. Unity has one as well. Houdini is a graph-based editor. You can do a lot of stuff without programming. However, because I think that this is important, you should not be afraid of math, because at the end of the day, programming is math. And yes, you can be a good technical artist, especially on, let's put it, in the front end of the engine, that is materials, creating solutions for procedural systems. But I think that you will be incomplete like you will be lacking something, and because you are afraid of that. And believe me, if you are in a big company, even in small companies, if you want to keep your job, you will be, here's the thing, you will be given problems that you are not imagining, and you probably don't know anything about, and you are afraid of that. So being afraid, this is what I say. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I do know how to find out, because that's my job. Every problem that is currently on my lap in my job is things that I don't know how to do, because that's why they hire me. That's why they get paid for. So that fear of you not wanting to program needs to disappear little by little, because when you are in a job, you don't get the luxury of picking the problems that you need to solve.
That laughter came from experience, I can tell.
Yeah.
I know that this is the gotcha moment that I enjoy, because you are afraid of programming and math, and this is not for the weak.
That's maybe I just could add here that if you identify yourself as a lifetime learner, you will have no problem as a technical artist. Your job is being a problem solver, and the way our system in our brain works is that the more problems you solve, the more energy and motivation you will have for the next problem. And it's never gonna end, but it's gonna be really interesting.
Yes, we are the original machine learners. Like, it's literally, the machine learning is literally model of our brain. So you need to train your brain.
So you heard the experts, go for it. Flame Lizard Codes asks, in a portfolio, how should art and technical parts be balanced in the project showcase? Also, can open source engine contributions be added as part of a portfolio for technical art?
For the second question, yes, it's probably, the last few years I have been, let's say, making a moving from proprietary engines, like I'm using Godot, which is one of the examples that I put there. That's definitely a bonus, in the sense that the community is open and they are valid engines as Unreal might be, and the principles are the same. And I use Maya like for 14 years, and I abandoned it. I'm doing everything. I'm not an expert in Blender, but I have been doing a lot of things in Blender recently. Perfect. Ubisoft, we use Blender in Ubisoft. Ubisoft is part of the what we call the GOLP, the sponsor program of Blender, which means they are giving money to Blender to be developed, among other a bunch of companies. So yes, and it depends on the first question. It depends on what you are doing. If you see my art station, you will see that there is a bunch of examples that have video, and you see all the bells and whistles moving and stuff like that. You have probably a repository like GitHub or GitLab where people can see your code. So it's both. I'm more, for example, I don't have that many contributions to my GitHub, which is something that I'm changing right now, even though I haven't published anything, because my work has been always on the shader material side, more on the visible stuff. But then you create your portfolio in such a way that you show functionality.
And also, just a small note, share your creations with others on online platforms. If there are no copyright issues, for example, or if you're the owner, that's also a big way to get noticed by others who are experienced professionals in the industry, and that helps with your visibility.
Flame Lizard actually has another question. If you're using graph-based nodes, don't you still need to be able to code the shaders to optimize them later on? It's a very detailed question.
No, because the thing is that the answer to that question is that if you know how to program, it would be easier. In the same way that I would say, if you know math, it would be easier. But very specific, very objectively speaking, you can still do performance work with the profiling tools that Unreal has, which were upgraded for Unreal Engine 5, and still do your work perfectly. The point of having a graph node and a UI for profiling is precisely that you don't need necessarily to go to the code. Also, if you are usually, which is the experience for us, if you have a render engineer that is an expert, and he is the one doing a last pass. It's not that you are not necessary, it's that you are usually doing, let's say, the first cleaning, and somebody with more knowledge than you will do the same thing. The answer to your question is you can still profile basing in graph stuff. There is a bunch of stuff that you need to understand in graph nodes that it gets, let's say, is made transparent. So you need to be aware of that to not actually have problems with performance. But it's better at some point you start doing programming.
May I add here that one thing though that will help when working with shader graphs is the basic knowledge of algorithms and how programs work in general. Even though you won't enter specifically code with keyboards, but you will, in order to work with those graphs, you need to have a systematic mind that knows how ifs and else's and how conditions work together in order to get to a specific result. Not necessarily coding, but the logic of programming.
Frechafe also had a question earlier, but another question from him or from them. They're very cool. How do you guys manage problems? Do you categorize them in a table by priority, discipline, or something like that?
We have a producer that does that for us.
Luckily, we don't have to do that.
No, but in Ubisoft, like if you say in a day-to-day basis, there we have meetings with peers and our producers, in the same way that David is managing our time here to not get into a rant about the things that I like. There are producers that are keeping us in check. There are systems that is called Jira, even though about managing problems, there is a decision-making process. The priorities are usually decided either by your, not decided as in imposed, but after a discussion, they are assigned by your lead. In a more general way, you need to practice to, once you have a problem, how to approach it. You need just to practice and find your particular workflow.
And if you want to know more about the work of a producer, we had a episode in the first season focusing on that role. Shameless plug. So for the final question we have here is from Simeon B14. How important are connections in getting a job or an internship as a tech artist?
I wouldn't call it connections in the sense that usually, even though I'm not saying that that's the intention of the person, it implies some, let's say, advantage. At least in my country, in Spanish, is understood that way. I will say that networking is what you are talking about. It is about participating in the community, that you go to Discord servers. There are plenty of Discord servers that have to do with Unreal Engine, and you show your work, and you show your work in ArtStation, and you have an IG. We live in an era where social networks, for better or worse, became a tool to get you to know you. Even if you are not selling something, you put your work out there, and you put histories, and you connect with people on social networks. And you, again, go to Discord, and it depends on where you are, but you can go to meetings and you can go to conference. And by conference, I mean also digital online conference, because I know as a Venezuelan living in Venezuela, I know that it's very complicated to move places. Getting to know you and doing networking is incredibly important. It is very important, and it's crucial to your job seeking aspirations. Connections, again, it might have let's say more, I don't know how to call it, but like a cynical meaning. If you connect with people and people know you, and you go to an interview with your community and your work outside and learning, and even it has happened to me that I go to an interview without knowing the person that I'm talking to, in both sides, as an interviewee, as an interviewer in the presentation, and you are somebody from that network, and that definitely helps, because I already knew what you were doing. And the thing is that happens more often than you think, because the game industry is small in general. We are not that many, and we are even less technical artists. So it's incredibly difficult to not find yourself with, let's put it that way, in the street with other technical artists, because you are basically frequently, or hopefully, you are frequently in the same online spaces.
And my 2 cents would be for those of you who are probably students in the similar fields, take your university projects seriously. Don't just do them for the sake of the notes. Do your projects seriously, publish them online, and build up your portfolio as you are passing your CPs. So that when you are done with your studies, you might have already had some requests to have a small chat about a position that might be opening. Or along the way, some connections might be coming and going to the university, and you have already your first job even before a couple of months that you are finished with your studies.
All right. Thank you very much. I think that's basically the end. Oh, you mentioned that I'm the timekeeper here, and we don't have any more questions right now. So I'd say, and you answered quite a lot, and you submitted quite a lot. Thank you, the audience. That was very, very cool. Very insightful questions also. That also show that many people come here with a certain knowledge already, but also like a clear, curiosity to join the industry, which is very, very cool, and the reason why we're doing this. So again, thank you very much, and of course, thank you for the presentation, your time, and the knowledge you shared.
Yes.
Any?
Don't forget, Matt loves you. Matt is waiting for you if you want to say technical artist.
You should change your job title to like official math ambassador. It's really, really cool.
So we are also thankful for providing this opportunity to talk about technical arts. I think that's something really needed in the industry.
Yeah. We are doing a lot. We are not sleeping well.
Any helping hands would be appreciated.
Yeah. Also, speaking of helping appreciated, I also want to shout out the moderators in the back, and of course, Julia doing the live producing here. As always, splendid work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Be safe. Bye. And we'll see you in the next episode coming soon.